Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at a ramp Disdain dragon deck. So Disdain seems to be reasonably popular in both rotation and unlimited, using very similar decks in both formats with very minor differences. In this case I am using things like Canyon of Dragon, which I actually find to be quite a nice card. But overall the decks are pretty much identical in both formats. You could probably get away with running Zeus in this one, of course, but I prefer Genesis for the little bit extra damage. Honestly though, I'm finding Disdain in both rotation and unlimited to be a very difficult deck to actually get to work. I found it's not really that much more powerful than standard Ramp Dragon was, and I don't see how people were really hyping it up as a super powerful deck when really I feel like it's lacking, at least at this stage when I'm making this video. I don't know if it will pick up later or whether it will stay the same, but either way I still feel like it's definitely not as powerful as the hype would have you believe. So we're going to get right into this and check it out. So first up, we're going up against Forest, which is a pretty reasonable matchup even in unlimited for Dragon. It's definitely not one of the harder ones. But this deck definitely doesn't make life easy. I mean, trying to get all the effects to go off in the way you want and trying to use the Disdain Legendary, which has an enhanced 7, it can be kind of rough. I would have much preferred it being a little bit different, as the enhanced just feels a little difficult to play around. I'd rather it was probably enhanced 8 and allowed you to use its effect more practically on 7 with a couple of cheap Disdain cards than having to try and slot it in at either a turn 9 or turn 10 play, which is a little disappointing, as it's very hard to get a decent amount of self-damage to it. Dragoncraft Roy though, still MVP I think, giving you both destruction and drawing options when it comes to getting some ramp or destroying a follower. You can't really go wrong. But we got Sylvian Justice, which kinda sucks. At least following on from this turn, we can pretty comfortably play Pure-Hearted Stinger into this board and just kind of tank these fairies with these followers, which is what Dragon seems to do fairly well with. It's got some nice stats, so it tends to do well against low cost followers, low damage followers, things it can be easily traded up 2 for 1 pretty nicely. Of course, the Leah Dragon Sword plus an Evo and a ramp gives us a heap of ramp, putting us well ahead of our opponent, giving us a very nice way to clear out this board. And they just keep pumping the fairies to the board, fairy after fairy, never ending cycle of hate. And there is the Insect Lord, not a big surprise. They probably would have liked a better thing to target, but I mean, beggars can't be choosers in this situation. And there is our Poseidon. Poseidon is a pretty powerful card, of course, being able to tank most damage, blocking out a heap of potential OTK decks from really killing you off easily. Cassiopeia though is a good option if you wanted to remove some of this, but definitely won't be the be all and end all. So you get a chance to use the White Frost Whisper, the Dragon Canyon, and just go face, basically playing a standard ramp package at this point. Really not having any use for the new legendary yet, especially when you haven't drawn it, makes it difficult. It's really just an extra bit of damage burst, which is still okay. I don't mind a little bit of extra damage burst. Now if I had went for this turn a little bit differently, I probably could have just Genesis and played off that, but having to remove this Aaron was just a pain. At least now we get some decent draws. And we get a 5/5 dragon, which is the only reason I didn't play the Disciple of Disdain there. They do end up throwing this down though with the Evo. Definitely a rough time for me. But we win this game pretty much anyway. I mean, once we trade into that, we play our Genesis, go face, and win the match. So unfortunately I didn't get to use the new legendary in these matches. Nearly every match that I did use it in, I'm pretty sure I lost, which is fairly disappointing honestly. I really wanted to use that legendary more practically. It just goes to show how difficult this deck can be to both use and take advantage of. I'm sure with a bit more practice and more refinement I can probably get this deck to work a bit better, but it does feel like Disdain is just kind of an extra package in the deck and not really any kind of focus, which is a little disappointing. It's more of a throw this in because it's pretty good and could work to your favour sometimes, which I think I'd rather just run a straight up ramp deck if that's the case, as if there isn't a dedicated Disdain deck, it doesn't feel like it's a worthwhile package to have in every deck. While it's a fun idea, it just, at the moment, to me personally, feels lacking. How it holds up in the long term though, that's anybody's guess. So it looks like they're playing some form of Daria deck, probably a Creation Daria if I had to guess. I really want to mess around with a Creation Daria, and I've got some ideas for one. I just need to refine those down because I really want to fill out the curve for it better. So opponent not really doing too much else. Mystic Ring, probably on Creation if I had to guess, which isn't a bad option if you were running it, as having it in your hand is not the best way to go, for sure. Witchet, Conjure, just basically playing a bunch of followers at this point. They've cleared their 1, 2, 3, and 6 drop range, I believe, at this point. So there was the Disdain Legendary. We actually got it in our hand. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to use it this turn at least. And I would have liked to have probably used it next turn, but I would need at least one more Disdain proc to really take advantage of it. But we did ramp extremely hard, which was quite nice. Unfortunately, the Canyon of Dragon just became an outright better play at this point in the match. Being able to get a 5-5 Dragon and set up for future 5-5s were way too good. Especially against a potential Daria deck, which is, I still believe that's what this is. Says the Enchanted Sword, nice little Fate's Hand. So they've pulled their 7 drop, they've pulled a 5. All they really have left will be probably the 4 drop slot. So I get a chance to just throw down Genesis and go face for 9 damage, leaving an 11 health follower, and then the 5-5 Dragon will be nearly impossible to clear both of. Which our opponent clearly realizes and concedes, so while I did get the Legendary in hand, being able to use it was a very different story. So while there's definitely things that this deck can do, and using the new Legendary works out pretty nicely, I was only running 2 of it. I have seen a lot of decks running 3. Unfortunately, I do only have 2 of them, and I wasn't willing to craft another one just for this video, unfortunately, because I still, like I said, I feel like Disdain really is lacking, and it just doesn't feel like it's super powerful. I would say it's probably tier 3-ish, tier 2-ish, maybe. Definitely not anywhere near the tier 1 bracket though, which is a little disappointing, as I think it's got a lot of potential, and maybe with some more cards and better refinement it could get there, but at this point I just don't feel like it is. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe. Till next time, see ya.